Hello, friends. Today we're going to talk about something really powerful that can shift your energy and it can shift others. If there's one thing that you can do, and this is related to my last video about relationships, actually, that will keep your heart opening and opening, keep you embodying clearer, lighter, faster, and also affect everyone around you. It is speaking to the creator essence in everyone. And beyond speaking to that essence, to connect and feel the true essence of everyone. Now, in a lot of teachings about enlightenment, I'm sure you've heard that we're not learning anything. This is an unlearning of everything that we've memorized, been taught, or crammed into our subconscious as this is reality, like I'm unlovable, I'm unworthy, all these beliefs. We're unlearning everything and remembering who we are. And, that can seem kind of abstract and esoteric, and like, what does that really mean? So, I'm going to try to explain a little bit of that today and how you can remember more of who you are and beyond remembering, embody more of your true essence and that knowing which transcends any belief. Beliefs are pretty flimsy. It's like I want to believe that I'm supported by life and I want to believe that I'm loved by God, universe, life, whatever, something bigger than this tiny human mind, right? So the magic is really in the embodiment because that's where your knowing is solid. You know that you're loved. You know that you're part of something greater. You're eternal. You're part of the magnificence of all that is. So, if you want more of that, then one of the, I guess, most common teachings, ancient teachings, is silence, presence, connecting to who you are in that space of silence. I call this a lot presence, so feeling. And there's a reason for this because that busy mind with all of its beliefs, we need to access something bigger, something greater than the mind that simply memorizes and attempts to believe things or have ideals or, all these constructs. The real tangible and unchangeable shift in your life happens when it's within and you feel it and you know it. So, living in presence it has been for me, I'll call it my main pathway. Silence, meditation, yoga, awareness, beingness, whatever you want to call it. And people find their way through different methods, different means. Not everybody really goes that way. Some people find their connection to silence through movement, through running, through hiking, through nature. Whatever way you feel connected to something greater, in whatever way you're feeling that grandness of you, that's what I'm going to call presence. So, where you are aware of something greater. And living in that space 24/7 is a big shift that happens for us, where we're always aware of something greater. For me, I feel that through staying in my body. My job, one of my jobs is to just stay in my body and feel, whether it's my breath, the air on my skin, and being aware of everything around without being hooked into any one thing. However, you get to that space of feeling, knowing, and connecting with who you are, there are many avenues, and none are right, none are wrong. But from there, being aware of your awareness, being aware of who you are, whether you have to write it on your hand, I used to do that, remember who you are, so when you get out in the world, you don't get sucked into these old streams of identity, old streams of thoughts. From that point, when you are in that space of awareness, then you are aware of that in others. When you are aware of who you are, and then you're with another person, and you're aware that they are creator as well, again, call it beingness, isness, source, light, um, whatever words you want to use for this, but you're aware that you're playing a character, you're wearing a costume, this vehicle for this expression of you as the universe in form. And then you're also aware that that person in front of you is simply playing a character. That affects your energy, it opens you up and it opens them up. Now, going back to relationships, because it's kind of a big buildup to this. When you're speaking with somebody now, the key is to stay in awareness of who they truly are. And when you do this, because you're aware of who you are, so you got to be aware of who they are. They're not that aspect that's showing up. And let's make this really practical in relationships where folks maybe are in strife or um, they're they're not super happy. It's not a totally joyful conversation that you're having. What I want you to do is connect to them as creator. Connect to the highest version of them that you can. See the goodness in them, see the beauty in them. Stay aware, oh, this is creator playing this role. And rather than what tends to create issues, rather than connecting to the aspect, the personality aspect that's having issues, which most of our personality aspects that are having some kind of a challenge are children. So be aware of the child or whatever is showing up right there, but connect to the higher being, connect to them as source, as the wisdom. Because even if right now they're projecting at you somebody who is caught up in anger, judgment, jealousy, victimhood, or whatever it might be, your job, if you choose this challenge to light yourself up and light everyone up in the world, then your job would be to see through that and connect to the source being, connect to their higher self. Because even if they're projecting confusion, frustration, blame, maybe, there is the greater part of them that is all knowing, that knows there's another way, that knows they can drop this, they can transcend whatever it is they're going through. And just like where your consciousness goes, life blooms, consciousness brings life. What you focus on in your world grows, whether it's, oh, my body's healthy and I'm so blessed, that grows. Your health grows, your blessings grow. When you focus on the light in others, you are essentially reaching in and pulling more of them through the physical. You're reaching in, boy, there's a light right here. It's kind of perfect. You're reaching in through the heart and you are welcoming more of who they truly are as creator through the layers of the subconscious and the trauma, I'll call it, that they've experienced that they're projecting at you. And you're opening the door and saying, it's okay. More of you can come through. So when you focus on connecting to someone as creator, you remember who they are, you see their light. This is where, rather than trying to school people, disagree with them, give them advice, rather than perhaps you yourself being triggered by their behavior and becoming defensive, you take a breath, you open up, and you be you as source who doesn't ever need to explain or defend yourself. And then you go beyond that little projection of the child. We're aware of it, but this isn't ignorance, this is conscious choice of your focal point, going through the layers of density and connecting to the light within. And now what you're doing, as you've heard Again, all the masters say we're not here to teach you anything. We're here to wake you up so you can remember who you've always been, because the greater you is all knowing. So that's where we're not attempting to teach, to change the child, where we focus and ignite more of that light and bring it through and allow that person's inner wisdom to expand and the light bulbs to come on. And you'll find it's pretty funny in these situations where you may just sit and listen to somebody. They might even be calling you names. I've been there. I've sat and allowed people to act in all sorts of interesting ways. And as creator, you become transparent because what they're projecting at you is not about you. It is their own filters, their own pain, their own projections. So you just have this compassionate awareness that, well, not only is it not about you, but your light is probably illuminating this stuff so that they can transcend it. And then as you allow that all to pass through and you stay focused on who they truly are without shutting down, pulling back, or trying to fight, you just stay open in this state of awareness, that then suddenly they might say, wow, well, you know what? Their whole story changes, or I just had an epiphany. Well, that's great advice, Kathy. You didn't say a word. Um, Not that there aren't times where people won't ask you for advice, and by all means, give advice to that part of them that is asking you. But this is where staying focused on who they are brings them through, and suddenly the answers that have been within them all along are right there. They come to the surface. And as you're sitting here doing this or being this or doing really nothing but choosing your focal point, choosing to be aware, you're also opening and expanding and opening and expanding. So it allows more of you to embody. It allows more of others to embody. This is energy work. This is love work. This is, I would say, the most high, pure, direct form of energy work you can do, and it's no work at all. It's, a lot of these things are sort of like paradoxical, right? Because you're just sitting there being yourself. But if there is work involved for people, myself, others, it could be in those moments to not be triggered. And I've observed this in group settings where when somebody shows up and they're acting of unconscious behavior, their behaviors are starting to come out and you can feel the energies. You can look around and watch, like, who's able to maintain presence and awareness of who they are and who gets sucked in to the unconsciousness, because it's kind of like a virus, right? Like, it spreads. And the ones with the weaker immune system, will say those who aren't as firmly integrated through the physical in presence yet, start to wobble at times. And then you'll see somebody go from being wide open to sucked in to one of those old energy streams of consciousness. And whether they say a word or not, as you're open and you're observing it all, you can feel the energy dynamics, the push and pull, the tug of war. And anything that we fight, grapple with, takes our energy. It takes our light. So even if mentally you start arguing with someone, that's draining your light. Even if you start judging them, questioning them, you're putting light towards judgment. Something that's just, how is that really benefiting you, your health, your mind, your body, your manifestational world? It's not. So the work, again, is like this muscle that we just keep flexing to stay in awareness And I'm going to call it mental mastery, where why would I give power to thoughts that are heavy, judgmental, old energy? Why would I fight with anything or anyone? Again, whether it's verbally or just up here, or even trying to prove yourself, or on and on and on. So, everything seems to come back to presence. Uh, that's why I do the events Breathe and Feel or Pure Presence, because the more we are able to anchor in this space of embodied presence, and the more we become just settled into our bodies in a state of relaxed contentment and fulfillment, it's like, well, why would I want to leave this space or place or feeling to go and tangle with any of that and give my energy to things that are going to make me feel scattered or upset or heavy? And I use the word heavy a lot because the higher consciousness, your presence, the more time you spend in silence, and silence might be watching the leaves on the trees, it might be swimming in your pool, things that bring us into our body out of here. The more time you spend there and you feel light and joyful and free and carefree, and there's no battles and no fights and no big, overwhelming responsibilities or anything you got to be or become or try to prove. The more you live in that state, you don't want to go back and get entangled in any of that heavy stuff, because those energies are um, heavier. You don't feel as light and carefree. Life becomes serious, becomes one problem after another. I'm going to do, I'm going to give one more example of this, because for those of you who work with others, who maybe you're on social media, making posts, making videos, a lot of my friends are also facilitators and do very similar work to me, or other things that help to just bring love and joy into the world. One thing to keep in mind with this, and a challenge that I have personally dealt with, and from time to time I have to really pay attention to this, is when you're talking to others. Um, if you're creating something in the new energy, if you are a spiritual type of facilitator, or even, I don't want to limit it to being in a spiritual job. Maybe you are working in the corporate world and yet you have new ideas. You are connected to yourself in this wisdom that brings through things, ideas, whatever, that are not common. If you're an out of the box person like me, this is so important, because it can be so tempting to change our message, to, I want to say, sort of dumb it down to fit in with the sheeple, to be accepted by the masses, and to explain everything as though we're talking to people's lowest level of consciousness, right? Like to want to try to make it understandable for everyone. And I think, number one, the ability to do that is wonderful, because when you're talking to an individual one on one and they say, "But Kathy, I don't understand this," the fact that you can break it down in 1,000 different ways, depending on who the audience is really wonderful, right? But when we're going out and we're speaking, we want to keep, I'll say, connecting to people's highest versions. We don't have to convince all the different levels of personality aspects, all the different ages, all the different, we'll call it levels of consciousness. Not that they're like defined levels, but you know what I mean. You don't have to make your message understandable for all of them. What I would encourage you to do is speak to them as creator, because somewhere deep inside, they know, they just haven't brought it through to the mental yet. When you remember more and more of who you are, I've had so many of these experiences where you remember things way beyond anything that your mind has ever memorized or ever been taught. And that's what we're doing as we allow we'll call it the flow of source to come through our minds, bodies, and auras. We allow call it your higher self, your higher consciousness, your God consciousness, your Christ consciousness, that connection to you. When you bring that through the physical, make me an instrument, then sometimes words are going to come through that don't make any sense to your mind. And your mind is going to be over here going, well, nobody's going to understand what the hell that is, right? But it comes through from a higher state of consciousness for a reason. And it's not so much in the words. The magic is in the frequencies, the tones, the encodements of consciousness. There are activations that are happening. And I remember myself and so many of my friends when I started working with my facilitator and guide, I didn't understand half the words he was saying, but it was just like it spoke to something deep inside of me. And I went, this is my person. I have to listen to him. And it was like super confusing, but something inside of you can feel it. And that is you as creator. That is your true essence. So pay attention to that. And it is tempting to want to have everybody understand us and to explain ourselves. And I've found that it is one of those skills that we can use, and it's wonderful in our life. I'm an over communicator, like my day job. I always say that because I'm great at breaking things down for folks. But it's one of those human skills that we learn, and then we must apply higher wisdom to it so that we know when to use it and when to let it go. So, speaking to the creator in everyone, stay aware of who you are, your essence, your presence. Again, that is through awareness, feeling, and I keep that in the forefront 24/7. That is, we'll say, the muscle that we've all been flexing to make that the foundation. You know, your state of consciousness is the foundation for your whole day. You wake up in the morning and you're aware, I am that I am. I am God also. I'm a miracle. This life is a miracle. Earth is a miracle. Oh my God. I normally don't have a body. Like I am the universe, you could say it, but to me, that is isness. That's pure consciousness. Pure consciousness doesn't have fingers to feel, eyes to see, ears to hear. The fact that we're here and we can feel, see, and hear and explore and play. I mean, it will be over in the blink of an eye. I mean, my experience that I've had, I don't know if I've shared it much here, the near death experience, it's like you have one of those and you're like, holy crap, this life is less than the blink of an eye. It's so short, it's so precious, it's so sacred. And these are the choices to stay aware of how beautiful this is. Now, the mind and the ego and the aspects and the children aren't always going to be agreeing with that. And that's where we choose. Well, am I going to follow the old voices, the things that don't bring me joy, honestly, the things that keep me sort of locked into this perceptional cage of, you know, this human life where it is not so fun? Or am I going to choose to continue to turn the dial and feel my presence, feel my connection to all that is? Call it feeling God, feeling the embrace of the universe. The more you shift your focus there, the more you place your consciousness on truth, all that is, God, source, whatever, the more that it embodies and integrates within you. So I would say, in the grand scheme of life, the most important thing you have is your focus and your choice. You can control where you place your focus, and you can to some extent control your actions, right? I can't fly to the moon yet, only in my imagination. But we have very little control over anything out here. So, what you choose to focus on and what you even choose to command as reality, that's what your experience is. I mean, we are writing our reality here. So, I hope that you choose to feel the love that you are. Take a breath with me. Let's turn the dial to love. One of my favorite channels in my energy field is love. That can be kindness, joy, seeing the best in everybody, seeing the beauty everywhere. And I hope you have a love-filled day. Thank you for joining me. Namaste.